Hey everybody, welcome to TPIMSRLIve. I'm your host, TruePowerIsMine. I have Dr. Short and Brother Opio on the line today. We're going to talk about a lot of interesting things. I'm going to be quiet because these brothers are far intellectually more interesting than myself. So, brothers, just go ahead.
Well, you need to introduce the subject so we'll know.
Yeah. Oh, my bad. We was just talking about the quarantine and how it's having a psychological effect on the nation, y'all. The quarantine is energizing those who seek violence against melanated men and women. They catch you out there on the road jogging. They catch you going to your car from the store. But all this goes back to a broader trend that these brothers have seen in their own lives. They've seen the Ferguson. They've seen the Freddie Grays. They experienced the anger of brothers that were popped back in the 70s and 80s. Even Steve Coakley, some suggest, was assassinated. I would like for these brothers to articulate the scope of the danger we are in because we refuse to come together as men and try to build a foundation for the future.
Thank you, Brother Patrick. I'm going to point people to a topic that is very, very important. And I've mentioned it before, but I will just start with a very interesting documentary that's been around almost 9 years, and it's called Ronald Dominique. Ronald Dominique is a serial homosexual killer that murdered at minimum 20 raped and murdered 20 or more black men in southeastern Louisiana between 1997 and 2006. And it really didn't matter to the police. And when they caught him, they were so understanding and compassionate, this man. We have serial killers. Black ones on a certain level get caught, but there may be white ones that get less attention, in as much as if you have a police department that is infiltrated with Nazis or racial terrorists or race soldiers or Klansmen or whatever you want to call them, they're not going to investigate or devote resources to saving the lives of black people.
There it is.
We have thousands and thousands of missing people, women, children, men. And every now and then there'll be a case like, I believe, the black gay man that they found in the desert with his organs hacked out within the last, say, 5-6 years out in California. And they don't know anything about it. Or Matrice Richardson, the black woman released from jail in Southern California, and was in Malibu, and they find her bones years later in a ravine. This happens all the time.
Yep.
If I go back 56 years during Freedom Summer, when they were looking for the missing civil rights workers, Schwerner, Goodman, and Cheney, they began finding bodies all over the Mississippi Delta, but not the people they were looking for. These were black men that were randomly murdered, executed, castrated, and thrown in a river or ditch or a creek. And it was presumed they disappeared, no one knows. This has been our history for a very long time, going all the way back to the panty rollers, who were white men who were given guns and alcohol and permission to kill black people who weren't in their assigned place. They weren't in their quarantine, which is in the slave quarters. Anyone who was in could be killed, raped, murdered, mutilated. And, you know, in fact, let's say I'm a patty roller that just like killing people. If I killed, all I had to do was say this person resisted being brought back to the plantation, then it was justified for me to kill that person, man, woman, or child. So this is the American reality in which we live. People need to understand that there is a connection to mass killing and having large numbers of people who've done military service, who've been literally conditioned to the point where they can commit murder.
Correct.
Or kill as many people as they feel like it. So you can get the Zodiac killer, you can get these people. In fact, one of the biggest scandals of all time, after the U.S. soldiers came back from Vietnam, having been desensitized to killing men, women, and children, that the number of serial killers in America exploded. And a lot of times the judges and others, you know, thanks for your service, basically did not come down hard on U.S. servicemen that raped and killed people. It was kind of understood this is what the government had done to make these people able to fight and carry out the orders of their officers in foreign nations. You taught people to get used to killing. Many of these people who killed overseas had been recruited to be in law enforcement.
Yep.
And so we have this vicious cycle. And I may add, one of the things that kept us afraid here in the Washington area was a mass killer, a serial killer, who had the name of the Freeway Phantom. And the Freeway Phantom killed maybe 9-10 black women. And they never, it was done, no one ever, no evidence, nothing. It just, he killed and killed and killed and had us all terrified. But there was never anyone caught. We seem to forget that there are people like Jeffrey Dahmer and this man Dominique who enjoy killing. It's a thrill to kill. The Green River Killer, who may have killed 300 women. There is a black man down in Texas that they said may have killed more, at least 90-some people. There was a serial killer who was black, who was killing black women in the Miami area and leaving their underwear at their ankles. There was a serial killer who was black in Cleveland who killed at least 11 black women. Now let's just go here real fast, folks. Time after time after time, when I come on TruePowerIsMine and everyone wants to make it out that I just hate my black community, which is that's your choice and your constipated milk of magnesia option to think that's what motivates me. But I'm going to remind people the sex industry, or should I say sexual slavery, or sexual free agents, or whatever you want to call yourselves, hookers, prostitutes, tricks. It's an occupational hazard to be raped, killed, murdered, eaten, butchered, mutilated, disappeared. A whole lot of people, men and women, and sometimes children, are caught up selling their bodies, often to white folks who have more money, to get drugs or to get food or to get housing, or just because, things go better with coke, or things go better with light skin, or, wow, I always wanted to swirl. And so these people who sell their bodies or are compromised or are on drugs or human trafficking. By the way, human trafficking, 85% of pimps are white. Huggy Bear from Starsky and Hutch is a myth. Most pimps are white men. Almost all the sex clubs and sex shops and porn stars owned by white men for pleasure of men. Almost 90% of the customers white too. For all the little Candace Owen type coons out there that always want to put everything on black people. Yes, some ethnic groups do commit more types of certain crimes than others. Like, no disrespect, nobody black or white is shaking down Chinatown. That's an Asian hustle. So grow up. But we have many of our people who are morally, ethically, and culturally compromised, and they feel making your penis clap on your thighs, or popping your pussy, or I don't know, spreading your cheeks is a way to make it, or a way to get drugs, or a way to get recognized or seen, or to be somehow through the exchange of body fluids and STDs that you become an honorary Caucasian. There's a high price to pay. And there was a case up in Massachusetts where a white male serial killer, they don't know how many people he killed, had some kind of furnace where he was roasting the bones of his victims. And in the ashes of the bones, they found a bone fragment. It turned out to be a missing black woman.
Wow.
John Wayne Gacy, the white pedophile, homosexual killer, or for that matter, Jeffrey Dahmer, the black pedophile and homosexual serial killer who was eating black men. John Wayne Gacy was raping white boys. These people, not only can they kill, but they have the cover of being from the dominant male society getting a pass. In fact, in the case of Jeffrey Dahmer, a Filipino boy who had a profuse bleeding from his limb, who had broken away from Jeffrey Dahmer, the white policeman laughed and joked and brought the Filipino boy back to Jeffrey Dahmer, who killed him after the police left.
Yes, I remember.
And by the way, just say one more. For the weak, inferior, self-hating black men who, to the white man coming up to them at a bar saying, "I want to eat your heart out," is to come on. Well, several of them actually had their hearts eaten out. And people had suspicions, but they really didn't pursue it. After all, black lives don't matter. And the biggest crime is that black lives don't matter to black people. And black lives of folks who are sexually compromised really don't matter, unfortunately.
You know what's interesting about this whole virus thing is all the negativity and negative stats that come out towards blacks, getting it in higher numbers, getting arrested, getting beat up, being refused from letting into stores. It just reminds me of, studying criminology and understanding that the plagues and quarantines are always a way that they have officially controlled populations. And also, when it comes to negativity in blacks and plagues in the United States, there was a plague, yellow fever, that happened back in the 1790s in Philadelphia. Philadelphia had only 50,000 people during that time. That's a big city during that time. And what's interesting is that 5,000 people ultimately died during that plague. And during that plague, a lot of wealthy white people were the ones that you constantly hear about when you read about it. They were going to black neighborhoods telling black people that you could not get the virus. Those black people were going to white houses and washing people, helping people, but they already knew at the time that they could receive the virus, they could get the virus. But there were leaders in the black community wanted to stand up and say, hey, this might be a shining moment for black people to be able to show that we are our humanity and standing up and making things happen. So the black people going around and cleaning people up and helping different neighborhoods out and people out really helped and created flattening the curve and ultimately in 2 months almost killing it altogether. But what ended up happening after that, instead of them being talked about as heroes, wealthy whites began saying, well, yeah, they were helping me out, but some of them stole out of our house, out of our houses. And they have all these different types of rumors that were going against these black people that ultimately helped so many people and flattened that curve because they took their bodies and went out there and did what the various scientists say that should have been done to be able to help kill that virus. Now imagine, say, if New York had 8 million people, 800,000 died just in New York City. Wow. That's kind of how it was there. So 50,000 people, 10% of the people die. You know, but at the same time, when it all shakes out, black people somehow received the negative press behind it, even though they were doing so much of that particular plague to be able to help the city of Philadelphia. And it's all there in writing if you really look at the research. And, you know, that's what we have to think about today, that, you know, the whole idea at the beginning that blacks couldn't get it and all the negativity that comes out of this, blacks being beaten up by cops, not being able to go into places, you know, just using the plague in the way that Dr. Short talked about earlier to ultimately create negativity and murder towards black people. And that's something that we have to think about, and all those people out there saying that we have to stand up and be able to look out for our own and have these various things that allow us not to be taken advantage of and not to be so dependent, you know, on government or on society. You know, I think they may have something to that.
Yes, the quarantine should have really woken us up to when the shelves become bare, the thin layer of veneer that we call civilization evaporates. It disappears. And as we go into the famine part of this, because, you know, once again, for the religious viewers out there, you know what I'm saying. Seals are being broken. It's unseasonably cool right now. I was worried last night the little saplings I put into the ground back there was going to freeze. And this is May. We supposed to be sweating at night. You know, so I don't want to segue into the whole climate change thing, but, you know, I just want to say things are happening. You know, plagues are being unleashed. Famine will be coming to the United States very soon. Inflation on the food is about ready to go through the roof, y'all. So that's why I'm telling you, grow your vegetables. Get those seeds started right now. Get them in the ground. I showed you how to make those above beds so you can grow your little peas. You can grow your peppers, your corn, whatever you need. Because food is about ready to get difficult for those of us that were already on the bottom of the economic totem pole, per se, before the pandemic hit. Now, gentlemen, do you see any similarities between the quarantine and social distancing and good old-fashioned segregation like from back in the day?
You know, one thing I thought about was churches. And we know in black communities, one of the main organizations that really push black people towards organizing and being able to do various political and social things was the church. And a lot of the churches were told that they could not come together. And I'm sure that can have some type of influence over organizing and some of the things that, you know, we need. But I'm also thinking about Brunswick. When we talk about protests, we see the whites go out and protest with guns and so on, and nobody said anything about it. But in Brunswick right now, you got blacks out there with guns in front of houses where that boy got killed.
Right.
And but at the same time, blacks are. If you look at some of the, you go on my page, Opie of Peconi, you'll see that I share some of the protests actually on the SELC Jacksonville site, and you get the idea that there are blacks out there that are trying social distancing, but there are so many people that are upset about what happened with that boy getting shot like that. That it's just, I mean, the city is almost overrun with people. And so there's only so much social distancing that can happen. So what becomes of us as we go out there and fight for Aubrey, who was shot down like a dog by some racists, a father and son duel, maybe more. how do we manage the organizing that we need, and at the same time understanding that social distancing is something that is being told that it's a must.
I guess it's almost one of those situations where you have to write your congressman or woman. I mean, almost. I mean, because let's be honest. Back during the Mike Brown protests, okay, simultaneously out in Oregon, a lot of big media didn't cover it. The Bundy crew took over a federal building with guns. These men were armed. In fact, one of them got shot by an FBI agent, but they took over the whole complex. Now, if that would have been melanated men with weapons, that would have been like 1985, and I believe it was Philadelphia with the push movement where they dropped a bomb on them from the helicopter. They blew up the city block. They just blew it up. All right. This is the response traditional black revolutions get. Revolutionaries. Look at Tupac. I lived in Las Vegas. I lived right in Henderson, right next door. That city has so many cameras. I mean, even Chuck Berry would blush how many cameras they have. And you're going to say that no one has film of the shooting? Oh, it was just in a blind spot. It's always in a blind spot when it comes to us. Our history, where do we really come from? Oh, there's a blind spot. Hey, is the cops going to work on our behalf? No, that's a blind spot too. Because, like Doctor said, these men have been conditioned like dogs to attack the enemy. And unfortunately, whether you're pious grandma going to church every Sunday, you're the enemy. Whether you're little knucklehead Billy out there on the block selling dope, you're the enemy. Whether you're the little bitty girl just getting ready for prom, just getting prettied up with your little dress, you're the enemy. Period. Period. There's nothing less to be said. Unless you have some sort of reconciliation and change the hearts of the hater, there's really nothing to be said. Because all he's going to do is befriend you, then he's going to kill you. Hey, you don't believe me? Look up Ed Buck. Look at Ed Buck. Democrat scum. And I said it. He was a perverted freak, deviant, twisted. I said it. And his victims were black prostitute men who were economically non-viable. That's why they were out there trying to have a golden booty. It's pathetic and it's sad. And we keep falling for it. That's why on my show today, earlier, I said, you know what? It might be time for us to think about an exit strategy. You better start getting some international friends, and you better start making alliances to where you can pop Ghost the Weasel when this thing goes pear-shaped.
That's right.
I didn't mean go on that tangent. I get caught up in the moment sometimes. But this is what the young people need to hear. No more of this, oh, we shall overcome nonsense that's just going to get you beat up and killed and still left in economic oblivion. We have to come together with a strategic, calculative, and tactfully plan that we actually implement. Because if not, by 2030, we're going to have what? 0% of the nation's wealth collectively. We probably are going to be on trains being exterminated here and there. Because if you have no purpose and you have no use, and these are not my words, folks, you're a useless eater. And what do you do with useless eaters? You kill them. That's what you do. Now, I'm sorry, that's the cold truth. Now, please research what we're talking about. Research it and tell us if we're correct or if we're wrong. But if we're correct, then that truth should burn in your mind, and it should burn in your heart, and should burn in your body, and it should get you up and get you into action, playing your part. Time for disunity is over. Unless we want to make a collective suicide pact now, brother. I promise not to mess with you. You promise not to mess with me, and we'll both end up in the collective grave at the end. Because that's where we're going. If you don't see the enemy of all of us is working feverishly to make us look bad, you have to assassinate a people's character before you assassinate the people. Remember that. And if you don't understand that the image of the melanated man and woman and child is being character assassinated every day, slowly by slowly, then you're a fool. Then you're really not seeing the bigger picture. Because the whole purpose of the show is to educate you and get you into a position of survival. I'm past being a victim. I'm past being victorious. It's about survival now. Because if we don't, There is a plan for our extermination. You can call it Rex 84. You can call it Operation Garden Plot. You can call it whatever you like. But there is a plan for our physical extermination. And this has to be said. You know, I know this is a very uncomfortable topic. You know, it's not very pleasant. There's not, oh, this is rainbow and cup. No, there ain't no rainbows. You ain't tasting the flavor over here. But you are getting some knowledge. You are getting some ideals that you can build upon. And hopefully we can build networks of people, living webs. Because, Brother Opie, down south, on the street level, are you seeing more, racist behavior or racist expressions on the street level?
No, the South is the South. It is what it is. What's interesting in the South, it's kind of like the Pacific Northwest. You're going to get whites that are really, really cool with you because of the integration that goes on.
Right.
And then you're going to get the whites that are just deranged and nuts. And what's interesting is sometimes with the whites who are deranged and nuts, you can't really tell, because they're not going to be the ones that always have the rebel flag, on the car. And in the Pacific Northwest, they're not going to have the Nazi signs. And but they might be the person that's in the police department, and there ain't no might in it. We already know the history of the racism and police officers that are racist in police departments. But you think about what happened here or in Brunswick. The guy who shot and killed the Arbery, he was a former police officer.
Correct.
And already investigated, and it was investigated, had already investigated this before. And just like Randy was talking about these various incidents of people dying, imagine if we would have never saw the footage. Yeah. Imagine. And see, this is what whites who are really, really racist, they will actually have a civil debate with you. If you work with them or if you some kind of way run into them, they will have a civil debate with you and they'll take your side. It's when they're not around you and doing their own thing and get together when they begin doing these other types of things. Exactly. And so that's what, we just have to understand. And a lot of older black people understand this. Younger black people, sometimes you don't want to say, okay, you just keep getting older and you keep living. You will get an idea of what we're talking about. But you don't want to do that too much because you want the young people to be able to change the world and you want them to be able to see it differently. And, maybe we just didn't get it right as we were younger. But, we have to, like you say, we have to educate, we have to teach, and it's not going to always be pretty.
It's not. It can't be. Listen. You brought up the older black folks, and if you listen to the voice in the new black media, older black folks are getting no love now. They're actively saying don't listen to the older folks because they let down the younger generation. I say that we need unity. Yes, don't listen to an old fool. There is no fool like an old fool. Don't listen to him. So therefore, before you listen to anybody, get the foundation so that you can critically think, is this true or is this not? Before you listen to anybody. Once you get those foundations down, then listen to everybody. Because believe it or not, even your enemy can give you some knowledge that can be beneficial to your overall survival strategy. But don't blow your cover. When you're down there at the water cooler talking to Jack and he's talking that old crazy racist shit, just play dumb. Don't blow your cover. Now is not the time to be pointing finger and saying, I know you're wrong, because all you're doing is exposing your six. While you're pointing your finger, people are pointing red dots at you. So don't blow your cover. Have some patience. I know that we've been hearing that forever. Have some patience. But get some understanding.
Well, I think that you're not wrong, because what ends up happening is you learn that sometimes when you're out fighting on issues, everybody that's in that foxhole with you are not just like you.
Exactly.
And so unity is really important. I believe in coalition building if I'm really going towards winning, you know.
Yes.
So what kind of coalition can I build? And when I build this coalition, I'm going to win. You're going to win when you build a coalition. But it's just a matter of getting people together, which is the hardest thing to do. That's why we always talk about this unity thing, because it's not easy. It's a hard thing to be able to bring people together. Some people that are totally different from you, but you come together to go against something that you have to take out or you have to neutralize. And some people feel like, man, I have to neutralize myself against you. You my enemy too. You know?
Exactly.
You just have to figure out what your fight is. You know, how you want to build your coalition and go and win.
Now, speaking of building coalition, excuse me, so much piling of dust out here. I always do this for Dr. Short. You know, do you have a Cash App, brother, that, you know, people are listening to the broadcast, you know, we're heard all over the world, from South Africa up to Japan, over to Australia, back to Paris, back to here. Do you have a Cash App or any way people who are interested in funding you, because you're out here on the front lines like all of us, and we need, you know, war funds? Do you have any avenues for people to donate to you?
Oh, let me help you. He has a phenomenal book on the first black aviatrix, the first black female air pilot, who's phenomenal. That book is worth buying.
Yes.
If you wanted to touch his heart, I mean, let him give a pitch on the book.
Yes.
And
Yes. Let's do it.
Upcoming film on that, so let him do that.
Yeah, we're putting together, so we've done a screenplay based on a research on primary sources on the life of the first black woman to fly an airplane, Bessie Coleman, who against all odds became a historical aviator. I always mention to people when Mae Jemison went out into space in 1992 in the Endeavour space program. That's the first time Sister went out in space. She took a picture of Bessie Coleman with her. And Bessie Coleman was flying planes and doing incredible things with them, planes that were wooden, that were falling apart, while others were wealthy. Training here in the United States, she had to go out to France to learn French, go to France, learn how to fly, went back to, because she couldn't get a job or couldn't make any money, went back to Europe, went to Germany, learned how to stunt fly, and then she did all these barnstorming. But she did it in a time during the lynch period. A lot of lynchings were going on. And so I did incredible research in that book, and I want to bring it to the big screen, or at least a real nice series online, and so we can get an idea of who this incredible woman was, because without her, when her death created these flight schools, and one of those flight schools was put at Tuskegee, and a generation later you had the Tuskegee Airmen. You know, I think she's somebody that we need to know about.
Yes. Where can we pick up that book, brother?
So, yeah, it's up on Amazon. It's in different places. If you look up, and also there's a video if you want to get an idea what the research is about. Just look up Bessie Coleman Flying the Blues, and you'll see it. You know, my name is Opio, O-P-I-O. You put that in there, Bessie Coleman, and all of it'll pop up.
Yes.
A lot of free stuff on there. But yeah, get the book. You know, it's awesome. Every quarter, once or twice a year, we get money for, you know, the different books I've put out there. You know, like Randy, I've written a lot. I have a book called Black Culture Voice, where I go from the various generations, various music that we've created from the legal coded spirituals all the way to hip hop. You know, I've done a book on the Seminole Wars. Randy and I both are part Seminole. I did a book on the different Seminole Wars, and just, I mean, there's a number of really, really cool informational books that are out there. I've always tried to turn my research into books that can be read by a broad audience, so we can actually get it, be inspired by it, and redo all the greatest things that we've done.
Right. You know, with the Seminoles, did you do some research on the Maroons as well?
Absolutely. Really, the Seminoles are that. You know, and when people think Seminoles, a lot of times they think the Native Americans are like the regular natives, but, you know, they were black people. They But before Balboa them came over here, there were Africans here. From the 1300s, before the 1300s, there were black people here.
Omex.
But yeah, we talk about, and as a matter of fact, I do mention Fort Mose, and which is an area where black people actually protected the French in the 1500s, as protected the Spanish in the 1500s as the French and the various other entities came in. It was the black people that picked up arms in that fort that really helped Florida become Florida. And this was before 1619.
Wow. And look how brothers and sisters are being treated in Florida now. I went to Miami a few years ago. I had never seen so many black men riding bikes. It's like they actively attack. They actively, at the grocery store, liquor store, the stairs. I wasn't used to that level of hate in your face. And this was back in, well, it was more than a few years ago, huh? This was like back in 2004.
Right. I think the biggest thing is when you educate people and you tell them who they are, what they've done, then they can redo it. They get inspired. And then once the children take it on, particularly young people in the 18, 19, 20 range,
right,
that's how you end up changing the culture. Because that's what the Black Panthers were. They were 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds. Those are the people that's going to make the changes. And that's why we should focus at those people, at those kids, that are much younger than that. So when they grow into a certain type of knowledge, they'll change the world for us. And they'll stand up and do it and won't be afraid.
But that requires us older people funding them. There's an old saying, the old man has the money, the young man has the money. Or the old man has the money, the young man has the muscle. All right? But in our society, it seems like the old man has the money, and he ain't giving no money to no young man. You better find your own money, homie. You better get your own cheddar. We don't have that dynamics where we have mentors that's able to leave tangible goods for the next guy to pick up the lead, for the next guy to pick up the lead, for, that cycle.
This is why I am into hedge funds and private equity funds right now, because of what you're talking about. If I'd have known about hedge funds and private equity funds years ago, I'd have gotten into this, because it's that part of the puzzle that we miss. And that's why a lot of wealthy white folks, you see them never run out of money, always going bankrupt, never run out of money, because they understand that finance well. And we have to turn that around so it works out for black people.
Correct. Because we have the wage mentality, brother. Like, as long as I get a good job, I can get my whiskey and my house. The good job. You're never going to get wealth. You're never going to attain the ability to stack true wealth working for someone else. I'm just saying that's not saying that you can't have a good life. Don't hear me wrong, young man, young woman. Not saying that you won't have a good life, but you will not be wealthy. And there's a difference. There's a fundamental difference, because your good life will die with you. Your kids might not get that good life, but if you had wealth, your kids would get the wealth.
That's right. That is absolutely right. You're talking about passing on wealth, leaving something to your kids. Well, yeah, as an activist, I want to help other people leave something to their kids.
Exactly.
And that's what people like us do. We're not chasing after money. We understand the energy of it, and we understand the importance of resources.
Right.
So we want to turn everything that we do into something that's going to help us out, so our children are not going through this crap that we keep having to go through.
Break the cycle.
For a second, I want to interrupt and just bring something to your audience's attention, because, Brother Patrick, not Patrick, but TruePowerIsMine. Who's Patrick? I don't even know who that is. Anyway. But Opio here, first and foremost, isn't just talking. A lot of times we have guests, a lot of people hear these shows, they don't realize people are actually doing. Now, I've known this man 20 years. When I met him, he was running the Howard University Law School barrister newspaper, as well as being active in legal aid, getting school supplies for kids in school. This is
Cuba.
20.
We went to Cuba too. I organized that trip to Cuba where you were with us.
Yeah, and we met Pop Shakur's godmother, Asada Shakur.
Yeah.
fighting for black political prisoners, fighting to get black for prison reform. Opio was doing this 20 years ago, and I was right there with him. I had joined the anti-mass incarceration movement in 1998. It's 22 years ago. And but he's been doing this, and let me just bring it up. He's not only a writer, he's not only a person that's been in the legal field, lawyer. He's not only been a person fighting for criminal justice reform. He has done stuff for economic development in his community. He's fought against police murder. He's fought against racism. He's forced schools to take the Confederate names off of buildings that black kids went to. He was the one who was the head of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference in Jacksonville, Florida, arguably the most active urban chapter in the country. He was the one that fought for Jordan Davis, even when they were unfair and they had some jury nullification, got a conviction, which helped launch the career of Congresswoman McBath. He worked, I'll forgive him, to get Barack Obama elected. Barack Obama's a senator. He worked on the Hill. Okay, he's had his own radio station, newspaper, and has been doing this all along. I want people not so much to say, oh, he's big and bad, but to recognize there are people who have really been working that have never wavered to help change the trajectory of the fate of our people.
Yes.
And they usually have done it without a lot of attention or praise. He and I, by the way, he was the one that let me write in this newspaper. Everyone told him, don't let Randy write for you. He's bad. Yeah. He's going to create problems. He's awful. He hates black people the same stuff. He's against everyone. You can't work with him. He has such an ego. He thinks he's better than everyone else. All this stuff, he's rich and he looks down on poor. All these things that people would say. And you know what? He let me work with him, and we got a couple of things. One thing we got done to Olio running our university barrister newspaper. We were able to force the NAACP back in 2000. We forced the NAACP to come and take a stand against the marginalization of black people. That came to this brother's newspaper, TruePowerIsMine.
Yeah, we got people out of prison too. Because of you, we got people out of prison.
Yeah, remember Julian Bond and Julian Bond. He was terrifying to me. I mean, I went in and just told him, "You're gonna take a stand. You a high yellow chump. I mean, shoot, I have white mice coming. We didn't get it from behind the barn. You're gonna do this." Remember, I talked about how blue his veins were and how I wasn't impressed. And so he came back and said, "What the anti-mass incarceration movement?" Okay, this brother's newspaper. We were raising hell about genocide against blacks in Latin America, in Brazil.
Yeah.
You name it, have been doing it. So when I meet these people who go down to Brazil for sex tourism and so forth, and some of us have been doing the right thing all these years, and I'm going to stop. And this is the other reason why I'm very, very mean when I talk about so-called black leadership. This brother, and I know other people, they've never had the money or the accolades and didn't run after it, get more done with practically nothing than these people when they have congressional offices and senatorial seats, and they have the mayoralty, councilmanic seats in cities. And you know, if you actually have done work, if I say to you last year, I helped to organize the struggle against the legalization of therapy in Washington, D.C., and we succeeded with no budget, fighting people who had $8 million. And realized that someone just blessed me with the donation. I'm blessed, and thank you. Some of us are doing. By the way, the Camp Calloway House, that thing would have been leveled last year. if I hadn't refused to say this can't happen, God, don't let them let this black man know. I don't got no money, but no to white supremacy, no to coons, no to sellout Negroidian black neck traders. I don't care. This brother stood up to the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, stood up to the NACP, stood up to the National Lawyers Guild, and have been paying financially. A lot of us have paid. You'd be amazed at the so-called successful black people who are out to punish the people who aren't for sale. The same way I was telling you, I was a trustee at Howard University. Remember Opio, they stole the election from me?
That's where you and I met.
They pulled guns on students at Howard to keep them from voting for me.
Wow.
I'm thinking, and Opio, I rarely go to protests or anything. I almost never go to. I'm usually by myself. But if working with brothers like him, working with TruePowerIsMine, we can change the fate. And right now, this brother's planning to create a whole brand of academic schools for black youth. I can't even tell you though because of Brenda's confidentiality agreement. And he's one of the worst school systems in the country to start. And will do and his work. We just agreed today we're going to help put together a statue and maybe a museum for a black woman. For all the folks who say we hate black women, I hate feminist, pork chop feminist traders. I don't hate blacks. I love them. I guess I'm a pork chop feminist. I said it. I hate feminism. It's an intellectual STD in our community. And we have to be encouraged with it. I don't care. I root all my friends. I will always tell you the truth. Wait a minute. I believe in women's rights. Hey, Brother Opio, remember the sister that we helped get out of jail that's come on that?
Absolutely. Out of prison. Out of prison. I think she had, she was going to do 30 years. She was a grandmother, and Randy got her out. He came to me, and we ended up putting it in the paper and everything. Next thing you know, this lady was out because of Randy.
Sister Kathy Gaines?
It's Dorothy Gaines.
Dorothy Gaines.
I'm praying that I get some resources because, and I thank the folks who bless us. If people knew this thing that Congressman Bobby Rush tried to pass, this tracking thing, it's already in place a certain way. You know what I'm talking about, Opio. Folks, I tell your friends, they can trace whoever you talk to. If there's a job or an opportunity or a grant or whatever, they will tell people not to give it to you or persecute the people that help you. To make an example, folks say, well, he went to law school, he has some education, he doesn't have any money. It is a way people are to discredit because you look and say, why are these people in such raggedy clothes? Why don't they do this one? It isn't that we couldn't, if we just went after money single-mindedly, we could do this.
Anybody can do that.
But if you do anything for the people, they attack. My publisher, ever since she got my book lined up, she's been sick. They've messed with her money. They've been all of this to get back at her helping me. I'm not even on a Tariq Nasheed level or Umar Johnson. These people have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers. Why are they attacking little teeny tiny outspoken people? And I'll tell you why. We're actually the ones that matter. They're more afraid of people who have 10, 12 followers, just look at the life of Jesus, than people who have thousands of followers.
Yeah, they turned old Jesus into a criminal, didn't they? And then the state killed him.
If you're a thug, or if you're a fraud or a pimp, or you just after black folks' pennies, they don't mind you because you're just a hustler. Like that film, quite new I told you about, where they've shut that film down. They're so mad that that dude had me in this film. They removed it from all the film festivals in the country. I mean, just admire that. I mean, that's scary. Anyway,
You're like a media Voldemort.
This brother, Opio, this man, when you think about it, the only white man that got convicted, one of those high-profile murder cases, was black when Obama was president, was the guy for Jordan Davis. That's the only one. This man did that. And people said, man, stop, Opio. Obama gonna lose. Y'all go put Trump in. Y'all go get a Republican. Y'all just let it go, man. He got his trial. People know he was innocent. Right? I know that happened. Brother. I know that they had people infiltrate the Southern Christian Leadership Conference just to neutralize his chapter. Yep. They put people in the chapter to steal money. They stole thousands, which is grand theft.
Correct.
No, nothing done. In fact, people came after him for demanding that people be accountable for what they do with the people's money.
Wow.
Imagine that, brother, if you have a station and the folks stole the equivalent of what, $15,000, $20,000, and you said, hey, look, you got to give the money back, and the other folks who got a piece of the money, or maybe they got a rib lunch or something off of it, got mad at him for demanding that people be transparent. And the head of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, whose last name happens to be Steele, and if it was spelled differently, it would be quite appropriate, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
They were mad at the chapter for not letting people steal. And for not, and so that King's organization, last time in modern history, was when Davis's murderer was convicted. And so, you think about it, with the exception of maybe the AFSCME chapter in Charleston, South Carolina in the late 60s, early 70s, one of the few victories that the Southern Christian Leadership Conference won, Dr. King was dead, assassinated, was when this brother was down there. And he'll tell you, they wouldn't even let me start a chapter. I'm not allowed to. This is the thing you'll learn. Certain people aren't even allowed to join the organization. They know you're not a coon. You're not allowed to come in. So when people criticize and say, you need to join one of the existing organizations and work with them, they don't allow you to come in. Am I lying, Saccone? Right. They say, oh, you're radical. And so it doesn't matter if you call yourself a Democrat. If you're for black people, they're against you. If you call yourself a Republican, people, they're against you. If you are helping schools, like this brother does, if you're in the community helping seniors, none of it really matters. We have a very, very, very dirty, corrupt leadership that the only solution isn't between Russia and Trump. It's between the coons and white supremacy. Trust me, my friends. You